They did a good job.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Welling Clark, El Paso County Rep, first vice chair acting in place of our chair who was unable to attend. His mother passed away last week and the family is out there this week and they're working on some things going on. And so he couldn't attend. He wants to give you his best and to carry on. So at this point in time, I'm calling the meeting to order. And I take it that Jerry, we have a quorum. Okay, I have a thumbs up. I have a quorum. Okay, and I have 4 people online. And when we start asking questions, Jared, if someone raises their hand when they're online, notify me, please.
Will do. And I just want to point out, since I gave you that piece of paper, we've had several more join online.
Very good. Okay, at this point in time, and just to go over for new personnel, that if on Robert's Rules of Orders for something to be discussed, we have a motion and a second to discuss it. It doesn't necessarily mean to approve it. Then we discuss it. If we need changes, we make changes and amendments. And then at the end, we vote it up or down. So I will be asking for a lot of, okay, we have the agenda. I'll request a motion to discuss and then a second to discuss. And in time, I have agenda approval. Do I have a motion to discuss the agenda? Okay, and state your name. Okay, and do I have a second?
Gary Sugar, second.
Okay, and Gary, who do you represent? At large. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. I have discussion. Does anybody have any recommendations, additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda? Okay. I don't see anything. Jared, anybody online? I don't see any hands raised. None? Okay, very good. Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the agenda as submitted, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Whoop.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda is approved. Consent items. Okay, at this point in time, they will be acted on and we'll go through them. Okay. Let's see. Can you scroll up a little bit there, Jared? Oh, once. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Well, no, it says agenda approval. That's under consent. Okay. That's and yeah, sorry. Yeah, with consent items, you'll see approval of the minutes and part A underneath it. So at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to discuss the consent items. Do I have a motion?
Miley Foster, El Paso County.
Okay, as a motion, and do I have a second?
Second, Kathy Heisey. And
Thank you. Okay, a motion and a second. Discussion of the minutes. Has everybody gone through and make sure that you were checked off, that you were here or you were online last month? Okay, any discussion, changes, adjustments? Okay, hearing none, I'll call in favor of approving the consent items. Say aye.
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 Opposed? Oh. Okay, no opposed, unanimous. Consent items are approved. And at this point in time, public comments and presentations. And Jared, have we had any contact from citizens or anything of that nature?
So, Mr. Chair, I ask anyone who's online who is not a member of the CAC or a staff person, which is actually no one online, and there is no one else in the room has not scheduled to speak or who is staff. And so all of that to say, we did not receive any advance requests for public comment. We did not receive any written public comment that we would have distributed to the community, the CAC members in advance to this meeting, so we can move forward to the next item at your discretion.
Thank you. Okay, so public comments, presentations completed. Moving to item 5 and item A on the action items. Okay, and thank you, Jess.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the CAC. I'm Jess Bechtel. I'm the Transportation Programming Project Delivery Planner here at PPG. So this first item that we have on your agenda today is a TIP amendment. It's TIP amendment number 1 to the FY 25-29 TIP that was adopted earlier this year. And so for those that are unfamiliar or new to the CAC, I'll give you a quick explanation of what the TIP is and why we amend it and what that means. So the TIP is the 4-year program of planned and physically constrained transportation projects, or the Transportation Improvement Program. So each Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, as you'll hear it referred to, is federally required to develop the TIP. And the TIP numbers roll into the STIP, which is the state's version of how they keep track of all the federal funding and such. The new TIP is adopted every 2 years and includes 4 years with an illustrative 5th year. And all transportation projects in an MPO's metropolitan planning area that seek federal funding for transportation and transit all are required to be in the TIP and must align with what's called the long range plan. So those funds are allocated often through different programs through federal and state channels, and those come through our MPO here, and we program those. Sometimes we have a say on what happens with those. Sometimes they're just directly given to the jurisdictions. So reasons for amendments and administrative modifications, many things can trigger that, depending on the type of funding that it is and how it's received, where it's received from. So this one that you're seeing today is called an amendment. And so that's by policy in nature, comes through the different committees and through the board for transparency purposes and for your review and making sure that everything shows up properly and through the right channels and such. So with that, I'll go through each of these, and that'll give you a little bit of an idea, being that it's the first amendment to the new TIP. And that way they'll be quick, smooth, and easy as we go throughout the cycle of these and the next ones that come up for you. So the first project that we have on TIP amendment number 1 is to add a new project, and this is requested by CDOT. They're the sponsor of this project. And so this will add faster funds to an emergency safety repair project for a failing culvert in our region. So that's the first one. That's a new TIP project, so that's added in to the list. The next 2 that CDOT has requested is to remove projects. And what that means, those are just placeholder projects that were in the TIP in future years. So the funding from those can be moved around easily and reallocated as needed to things that are more prevalent or needing adjusting within the TIP. So that's the CDOT projects there, and there's more specific information to those that speak to those here if you need that. The other 2 come from Mountain Metro Transit, Colorado Springs, and one of them is they received an OIM TDM grant, and so that's CDOT's Office of Innovative Mobility grant. And so what that is giving them a grant for universal study to look at fares and how those are used in the region and such. So all they're doing on that one is just adding in new funds onto this project. So we bring it through again for transparency and showing that that's what they received. The next project that they have on here to add funding to in the TIP is to update and generalize the name of this TIP project. Slight adjustment to the scope being that instead of having 2 bus replacements, it's going towards general so they can use it either for more than one or a hybrid. That's what that one is. And then it's also adding some new funding that they have for faster and such into that one. So again, all for transparency, we bring those through just to make sure you're aware of what's coming and going, and we meet federal requirement there. As far as the background or the backup for each of these projects, when we send them through as an amendment, we try to include the application information. So that's, you'll see as attachments with the TIP items. That's what is given to us from the jurisdiction. It's an internal form. And on one of them, we did catch that there's a little bit of a typo or missing data that added up the numbers for one of the MMT projects. So that's noted. We'll make sure that those are in there in case any of you accountants caught that. But that helps with the reconciliation and such, that we bring this to you so you can review that and make sure everything lines up appropriately. Other than that, we bring these through just so that you can weigh in on them, ask questions. Usually we have the jurisdictions online as well to answer to the project specifics if needed. So in this case, it would be CDOT or MMT. But other than that, we would look for a recommendation to the board for approval to amend the tip. So with that, any questions about the tip amendment?
And at this point in time, to discuss the tip, I would like a motion to discuss this recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So
This is
moved,
Chris
Carrie
Rock
Storm.
O'Connor.
Okay,
I'll second. Carrie Storm,
very
Manitou.
good. I have a motion and a second. All right, discussion. I saw. Okay, local, everybody here. Any questions? Raise your hand. I'll call on you. Kathy.
On the US Highway 85,
Mhm.
where we're being asked to move the 73,000.
Yep.
Given that's not a very big amount for any road project, I'm sure it doesn't cover a big item. But that bridge, I understood, is slated by CDOT to be replaced or seriously worked on. And I thought that was supposed to start next year. How does this movement impact that? Is it not as high on the list now, or?
I
will they-
think this was probably just, sorry. I'll cut you off. This
No.
was just a placeholder for, I think they just had it in for median barriers and such, so it would be like a slice off the top, but I don't think it affects it at all on that one, really. This was just in the tip to hold funds.
I don't see John online, but I do see Jeff Guthrie, so Jeff might have.
Yeah,
on
someone
the
from CDOT could speak.
Oh, there's
I'm
Jeff.
on the line. I am on the line.
There you go.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. There is a bridge enterprise project to fix the bridge, that J18M in Fountain South area there, just north of or just northeast of I-25. That project is still a go, although it's scheduled for like 2029. This is not directly related to that, except in the sense that this was funding that conceivably would have gone to a resurfacing project that has been, and potentially rehabbing that bridge rather than replacing it. So, and this would have been basically just design money even for that. So, this does not mean that that bridge enterprise project has gone away or anything like that. We are working on that in the very early stages of designing that. This is a kind of it does relate to the same bridge, but this was a separate pathway of maybe doing some repairs on it that are no longer, in the plan. Does that answer the question? Hopefully.
I think it does. If the bridge, the Sirius Bridge work is now at 2029 though, is there a, unrelated to the 73,000, but is there a plan to address the drop off at either end of that bridge? I know they worked on it here a few months ago, but it's reoccurring.
Well, I can definitely, it's our maintenance forces, so we're gonna just kind of continue to maintain that structure. And that in particular, they are aware of it. They're gonna continue to patch it as necessary and stuff like that. And I can certainly try to pass that messaging on to them. In terms,
Thank you.
but they are keeping an eye on it for sure.
Any questions in the room right here in the conference? Then I'll call on people that are online. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Teresa Cheek at large, and I just had a question about the drainage repair on Grinnell. It says that the culvert is failing. I'm just wondering how long that culvert's been failing, because it's been flooded for many years. So I'm just looking for a little bit more information on that project, please.
I'm not sure what you mean. So the culvert itself isn't failing. It's the embankment, which has collapsed on the south side of the road. When I say collapsed, there's been just such dramatic scour that it has, in places about 30 feet deep from where the ground level was in 2022 when that first happened. So, and what's happened is that erosion has kind of backed its way towards the highway. So right now, we are probably going to cut off a certain part of the south end of that culvert simply because the ground below it is gone. So the easiest thing to do is cut 10 feet of it off in terms of length and all. But the culvert is in fine shape in terms of it's progressing water effectively. It's really the embankment. So it's drainage repairs that relate to that culvert that need it's the embankment, the soils, although the wing walls, the toe wall, things like that are downstream now, or at least well below it.
Thank you for that. So it did say failing culvert on here, so that's where I got that. But
Yeah.
thanks for the explanation.
Other questions in the conference room? None. Jared, do we have any hands raised for questions? Okay. Go ahead and call them out as you see them.
But we did. Chris, did you still have a question?
No, my question was answered previously. Thank you, though.
And that was all I saw online.
Okay. I just have one question. and This may be for CDOT. Are we seeing an increase in requests for emergency repair funding, like it's ramping up, or is it kind of being held constant? Kind of what was the process about how the monitoring was done and how often it was done? It was, are these surprises, or we kind of knew this was happening? It sounds like we knew what was happening, and then it finally reached a stage where we had to do a tip amendment. Is that a correct assumption on my part?
Yeah. So this issue started in 2022. As I said, we did a project in 2022 using these same fund source culvert funds. And what happened though, if you look at Google aerials, actually for as recent as May, you'll see nothing like what it looks like right now. So some storm events happened over the summer, and then just a recent one there in early September. A couple, and yeah, our maintenance is certainly monitoring this. They've known about this. In terms of the overall kind of emergency repairs, certainly in front of PPACG, some issues have come up with a spring kind of, and some issues up on 105. Outside of PPACG's exact boundary, where we've had some issues on 67 that we've applied some RPP funds, and we'll continue to look at. So again, that's outside of PPACG technically, but this is definitely a dramatic one. This could end up actually becoming $1 million fix, in which case we'll be asking CDOT headquarters hopefully to reimburse some of our pools as well. But I mean, this is dramatically higher than what we've seen. This issue really deteriorated on us fast this summer and late summer. So we're not typically seeing, $400,000 and $1 million kind of emergency repairs, not in Region 2 right now.
Okay, thank you. Questions by anybody else? Okay, Jared, can you scroll down to the matrices? I just want to point out to some of the committee here of what was discussed about some of the fundings. If some of the questions that I know we discussed earlier, where I was looking at the before and the after matrices you see right here. Previously programmed $0 at the bottom, but none at the top. That may have been a typo or missed. Those numbers add up. And then scroll down to the next page. Okay. Next page on the top, there is $875,000 for 2 years, but that's supposed to be a sum up matrix, and it looks like somebody cut and pasted the bottom 875 and the top. There is supposed to be, my understanding is numbers up there. They didn't get put in, and I've been told that a couple of folks are going to go back and talk to their support people. So I just want to let you know about that. If you had questions, I just wanted to bring that up from that standpoint.
We appreciate you finding and calling out those things in our backup. As I had mentioned to you earlier, it's good for reconciliation when we go to look back at these projects years from now and we're like, where did this number come from? This is what we look at. And so this is our internal forms that we use for applications when they are, they being the jurisdictions, are requesting an amendment or an adjustment to their items. So good catch. We'll make sure that those numbers are filled in entirely before this goes to the board. I appreciate
no,
that.
you're welcome. That's because I made errors like that before and I finally caught them. That's how I know about them.
Gotta love Excel.
Okay. So if there's no other questions at this
Mr. Chair,
point. Yes, sir.
we do have a hand raised from Roland Rainey online.
Roland.
Good afternoon, Roland Rainey at large. Just based on what you just mentioned, I want to make sure the previous chart that had a fiscal year 24-25 rolled, is there any mentioned funding in this chart that impacts the previous chart from the beginning of the briefing? There is a section that talks about fiscal year 24-25 funding, and there is a column that mentions fiscal year 26. but there was no cost items in that area. I just wanted to ask the question, is there any, there you go, thank you. Is there any funding that you just mentioned and pointed out below that would impact anything up top?
I don't believe so. I think this is just the adjustments that are sent to us of only showing what funding line is adjusted. It's not the entire picture of the whole project. So should not, usually it goes through a thorough review. We make sure if it's gonna affect anything, then that's brought through all the policy and such like that. So, but no, should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, not hearing any at this point in time, I will then call for a vote to approve the recommendation. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Oh. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Des. Okay, moving on to the next item after the tip. This is a discussion item, and this is basically seed. And Tess, are you giving this one too?
So I will tee this one up and I will hand it off to Rob Fry from CDOT. So this item, it will actually kind of speak to what you were just asking about as far as emergency funding and things like that. So this one has to do with regional priority program funding. And what that is it's a flexible fund that's allocated statewide at the discretion of the Transportation Commission, the State Transportation Commission. And it's programmed through the MPOs with coordination of the regional planning directors. And so what they're looking to do is adjust some of that formula there. And I'm going to let Rob speak to this one because he's the pro. So.
Good afternoon. I'm Rob Fry, Plant Environmental Manager at CDOT, Region 2. So yeah, as Jessica pointed out, we're looking at starting in FY29, taking about $1.5 million off the top of what Region 2's allocated each year out of our RPP distribution and kind of putting that into a pool, not to program it to any project. So for the last, I don't know how many years, 10 plus years, Region 2 has gotten about $9.5 million a year for the RPP program. And then that gets further distributed out to between our 5 planning partners. So Pikes Peak gets about 41% of that allocation based on our formula distribution. And so this change we'd still distribute that remaining $8 million at that approximately that 40%, give or take a year. Some years you get more, some years you get less, just so we can program and fund projects that way. But this would reserve that $1.5 million to be used for unforeseen issues that come up. So John mentioned State Highway 105 up in Palmer Lake. There's a spring that popped up in the middle of the highway there that we're trying to address, but we don't have any type of funding to address that. As mentioned in the memo, RPP is our most flexible type of funding, which is why we're looking at using this pool of money for it. And then, as John pointed out, John Hall, State Highway 21 in Grinnell, that box culvert that's needing repair, this could be used for that as well. And then I also wanted to point out that this is new. We haven't done this before. It's new for Region 2. Other regions manage their RPP money similarly to this. But with it being new, we want to make sure that we're transparent in this. So the idea is we hold with our rural transportation planners, or partners, we hold quarterly meetings. And so the thought process was to just update the MPOs, Pikes Peak and Pueblo on probably a quarterly basis on how that money is being spent. And I'm trying to look at my notes. Oh, and again, we're looking at FY29. So anything that's been approved FY25 through 28, we're not proposing to make this change. It start in FY29. So with that, hopefully I gave you a better idea of what we're proposing, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay, since there is no need to recommend for discussions, anybody has any questions they would like to ask or comments about this?
Gary Sugared at large. At the end of the fiscal year, does the money roll over? If there's funds left over, does it roll over or does it expire?
No, it rolls over. We'd move it over. And I didn't, this question was asked at TAC, would there be a cap put on that? And so talking to my RTD, the thought process was, yeah, maybe about $5 million. But I think really in that discussion, it's like, if we let it get up to $5 million, we need to reevaluate this to make sure it's working. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Questions? Jared, any questions online? Okay.
We did have a hand raised from Chris. Chris, do you still have that or?
Everybody keeps asking my questions before I get a chance to. No, my question was about a rollover. I love the idea of a reserve pool. I think that that's very smart and just a brilliant suggestion. And I also can't imagine why we haven't done it before now. But I'm glad to see that its use or not use won't impact, or what I'm hearing is it won't impact future budgets because it will be treated as a rollover amount, correct?
I think that's correct. Instead of PPACG getting 40% of the 9.5 million, PPACG would get approximately 40% of that 8 million, with that $1.5 million being used as needed across the planning area. So, some years it could all get focused down in South Central TPR. Another year it could be up here. So it's to be determined.
Yeah.
But yes, it would roll over.
Thank you.
Other questions? Well, what you just described, what Chris alluded to me, is what I hear a lot of government call a rainy day fund for unexpected emergencies, which is good planning. Question I do have is with regards to this, when this rolls over, if you have not used all of that, what's left over of that fund will be kept for the following year, and then you just augment up, and then all the other remaining funds will be parceled out to projects. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, if I understand you correctly.
Okay.
I mean, if we ever get in a situation where we needed to move money between years in order, we may take money from FY26 and move it out. Anyhow, Jeff Guthrie does that work, but yes, it would stay there.
Now, where I was going is, if we didn't need to spend it, somehow we got ahead of the, I'll say, power curve for emergency repairs and everything, that we wouldn't pull money out to fund this fund because it would still be in status, you might say, still there.
Right.
And we just have a smaller amount going in. That would give us more funding for the community then.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chair and Rob as well, just so you know, Jeff Guthrie is online and is able to speak if we need to tap him.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Questions by any of the members of the CAC?
All right.
I have no more questions.
Perfect.
Thank you for the
next
briefing.
month we'll be coming to you for the FY29 list of projects, FYI. And then I apologize, I have another commitment, so I'm going to take off. If you have any additional questions, hopefully Jeff and John will hang on. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Jared, what is next? Oh, thanks, Kathy. Thank you. Unprepared this time from work. Okay, that was information items. Number 7, member entity announcements. Do we have any CAC member announcements of things going on that they want to share with the rest of us? Anybody online? What? Oh, Danielle.
So PPACG has 2 quick things. The first is just for everybody's awareness, Ed Dills and Welling Clark and Miley Foster have served in their respective officer positions for 2 consecutive years. We will be bringing in future months, probably next month, a discussion of who we want to be in the officer roles for the calendar year 2025. Per our bylaws, a member can't be in the same office or seat for more than 2 consecutive years. So you guys could move around. If anyone else is interested in being an officer, you're welcome to email me and I can make that known to the group. But just wanted to put it on everybody's plates to think about for next month.
And with that regard, Danielle, doesn't the CAC actually generate a nominating committee or something like that? Or do we just internally among ourselves?
We certainly can. In past years, we haven't been formal to the point of needing a nominating committee, but I will reach out to the officers and see if you would like to do that for the coming month.
Good either way here. If anybody wants a chance to step up and embarrass themselves like I do generally, you are real welcome, okay? But get involved and make a difference. But thank you for that. So we'll have more information next month.
Yes, absolutely. And one other quick thing, we had a request from CDOT to provide them with our Community Advisory Committee contact information. Because you guys are private citizens, you're not here for your job, you're not here because you were elected. We just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to opt in or opt out of that list. So I will follow up with an email for folks. It would just be for like invitations to planning events or things that happen in the community. But we did want to give everybody a chance to opt out of that if you would prefer. So look for that soon.
Great. Anybody else in the conference room or online have any announcements or things you'd like to share with the group? Where? Okay.
I don't have,
Chris.
this is Chris Crockett with Kono again.
Thanks.
I don't have an announcement, but I was wondering, especially if Danelle is already going to be emailing us with questions about our own contact information, could you also share with us, if he doesn't mind, Ed's contact information so that condolences can be expressed?
Yes, I believe we can do that.
Thanks.
And Chris, thank you. That is a wonderful idea and recommendation. Any other announcements? Hearing none. Item 7 is closed. Meeting schedule. Danielle?
No.
Oops. This one?
Nope.
I think we're good. Meeting schedule, obviously holidays are coming up. I know that sometimes in the past we've adjusted the Community Advisory Committee meetings due to Thanksgiving, Christmas time, things like that. So we may need to look at a couple of alternate dates or what's going to be on those agendas in the coming months. But I will make a note of that for the October meeting. And if you have any questions about any other of our committees or meetings that we're having, please let me know.
Thank you. And right now I can only think of Christmas time. And then if we have a meeting the last week of November, that's after the weekend of Thanksgiving, correct? Okay, good. Just let everybody know. Okay. See, okay, that's meeting schedule. And nothing else, then what I will do is I'll adjourn the meeting. And I want to thank you all very much. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.